San Francisco, 1906. The city was fast asleep, but in just a few seconds, one of the greatest disasters in American history would occur. It's 5:12 a.m. The ground shook. Buildings toppled. Roads crumbled. But the real disaster didn't start here. The fire was just beginning. For 3 days, San Francisco was engulfed in an unstoppable firestorm. There was no water. There was no escape. And the city became an inferno. So what happened? The earthquake shook the city, but why did everything turn to ash? Today, we tell you the truth behind the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and the biggest mistakes that destroyed the city. This is not the story of an earthquake, but of the biggest urban fire in history. San Francisco, April 18, 1906. The city was fast asleep in the early morning hours. When the clock struck 5:12 a.m., a deep hum was heard rising from the ground. What started as a slight vibration intensified in a few seconds and shook the entire city. The earth rippled, tram tracks buckled, roads split, and buildings began to tremble terribly. Some walls cracked, windows shattered with a loud bang, and some of the giant structures collapsed completely in a few seconds. The earthquake shattered San Francisco for about 42 seconds. Screams rang out across the city, mingling with the noise of collapsing buildings, and calls for help could be heard from people trapped under the rubble. However, the most terrifying part of this disaster was not the earthquake itself. The real devastation began a few minutes later. Fires broke out one after another in different parts of the city, especially in densely populated areas. The explosion of gas lines combined with overturned gas lamps and collapsed kitchen stoves turned into uncontrollable flames. The vast majority of buildings were made of wood and built in a cramped layout. When flames engulfed one building, within minutes they spread to the building next to it. To make matters worse, the wind was strong in the city that day. The wind dictated the direction of the fire, quickly driving it into the heart of San Francisco. People took to the streets in panic, some fleeing the debris, others trying to get away from the fire. But escaping the disaster would not be as easy as they thought. The fire was moving so fast that many residents were engulfed in flames before they had time to escape. The San Francisco Fire Department mobilized from the first moments of the disaster. But what they encountered was horrifying. As firefighters tried to get their equipment to the fire zones, they faced a major problem. There was no water. The earthquake had broken most of the main water pipes and knocked out almost all of the lines supplying water to the city. Fire crews tried to save some areas using the water they had left, but it was not enough. Firefighters tried to use sand and earth to extinguish the fire, but these efforts were insufficient given its size and the speed at which it was spreading. The fire was out of control in just a few hours, and no matter how hard firefighters tried, they could not change the outcome. Flames were burning at about 20 different points in San Francisco at the same time, and the converging fires merged to form a massive wall of fire. The flames engulfed not only buildings, but roads, streetcar lines, and even lampposts. As people tried to escape the fire, they were confronted with buildings collapsing one after the other, making it even more difficult to move forward as the roads collapsed. San Francisco authorities decided to call in the army to save the city. The U.S. Army, led by General Frederick Funston, quickly organized and sent troops to the area. General Funston proposed a radical plan to prevent the fire from growing. To stop the fire from spreading, the buildings would be demolished in a controlled manner. But this plan was too dangerous to implement. Soldiers and firefighters began to demolish buildings in specific areas using explosives. The theory was that this would stop the fire from progressing because it would stop the flames before they could find anything to burn. However, things did not go quite as planned. The dynamite used to demolish the buildings caused the fire to grow even bigger. The explosions threw sparks from the burning buildings, which with the wind started new fires. Moreover, during controlled demolition, the flames spread in the wrong directions, affecting neighborhoods that had not been burned before. By the time General Funston and his team realized this mistake, it was too late. San Francisco had become an inferno of fire. The fire raged non-stop for 3 days. 3/4 of San Francisco was completely destroyed. People fled to the outskirts of the city to survive. Golden Gate Park and the surrounding open spaces turned into a huge campground where thousands of people sought shelter. With water supplies cut off, dehydration set in, and survivors began to walk out of the city in search of clean water. The fire continued to spread throughout the city as soldiers and police tried to organize the population and prevent looting. The toll of the disaster was heavy. According to official records, at least 3,000 people lost their lives, but the actual number is estimated to be much higher. Some 250,000 people were left homeless, and 80% of the city was reduced to ashes. San Francisco faced one of the biggest urban disasters in modern history. But it was also the beginning of major changes. The city was rebuilt with safer building codes, steel frame systems, and modern fire prevention technologies. However, nothing could restore San Francisco to its former glory. The city collapsed in just a few seconds one morning and was completely reduced to ashes in a firestorm that lasted for days. I hope such a disaster will never happen again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and follow.